In our national lead, the U.S. Navy taking extraordinary measures in response to a very troubling series of deaths, including 3 suicides in the space of 1 week and at least 4 suicides total among the crew of the aircraft carrier USS George Washington. CNN's Pentagon correspondent Oren Lieberman went to Newport News, Virginia, where more than 200 crew members are being allowed to move off the ship, and some are describing just horrible conditions aboard it.
For nearly 5 years, the USS George Washington has been here at the Newport News shipyard. Its refueling and overhaul process delayed multiple times. But the ship needs fixing in more ways than one. Current and former crew members who spoke with CNN say the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier was never ready for sailors and the environment on board was unlivable. These images from the ship provided to CNN show the conditions on board. In these videos, a broken washing machine flooded nearby compartments, a bathroom in disrepair. CNN was unable to board the ship to see these conditions firsthand, but sailors say this was the norm. One sailor who wanted to remain anonymous told us about power outages, no hot water, unbearable temperatures, and the food.
They just run out of food. And if they had anything left, it would be, if you're lucky, a little cereal thing or like one little chicken leg that may or may not be undercooked.
What happened when you tried to flag some of these issues to your superiors or when others tried to flag them?
Absolutely nothing.
On Facebook, former sailor Jacob Grella said he was so freaking happy when he found out he was assigned to the carrier, not far from his home in Richmond. But soon, he says, weekend trips home became an escape from the carrier. With a year left on the ship, he tried to make an appointment with the ship's psychologist, only to find out it was a 6-month wait.
I tried to tell my leadership that this could be a reason why these deaths are occurring.
And what did they say?
I was met with the same negative feedback.
In the past 12 months, the Navy says 7 sailors on the USS George Washington have died, at least 4 by suicide. Sailors say the Navy brought in mental health resources after 3 of those suicides occurred in 1 week in April. One of those sailors who died by suicide was Xavier Sander, who was just a year out of high school. His father says he will always be the family hero.
He loved his job. He did his 12-hour shifts. And how do you sleep on a aircraft carrier with jackhammering and smoke and smells during the day? So he would sleep in his car. It's just awful. No sailor should have even been living on that ship in those conditions.
The Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, the branch's top enlisted sailor, came here to the shipyard a couple weeks ago to speak with the sailors on board. The message, he later said in a statement, was to hear the difficulties and the challenges those sailors face. But sailors who were there who spoke with CNN say the underlying message they heard was, get used to it, it could be worse. One sailor called the visit laughable and offensive. The Navy surged more mental health resources to the ship following the suicides, including a special intervention team and an additional psychologist. An investigation into the suicides is expected to be completed this week. Another investigation into command climate and culture will take more time. The commander of U.S. Naval Air Force Atlantic says they'll look at the quality of life issues, including housing. The Navy began moving about half of the 400 or so sailors living on the ship to different accommodations, promising that those who want another place to live will get it. A former George Washington sailor who left the Navy after his time on the ship called it willful neglect.
And that's something that's unacceptable, especially with a country with a military, with the budget it has, and the support it's supposed to have behind it. This isn't Afghanistan where you're expecting those circumstances. This is Newport News, Virginia.
The refueling process and the overhaul process that the USS George Washington is going through now was supposed to take 4 years. As of right now, it'll go until at least March of next year, meaning nearly 6 years. And that, sailors say, is part of what has led to these problems, these continuous delays. Jake, the reason they decided to come out and talk to us is because they don't want any other crew to have to go through these same problems, but they fear with another ship already behind the George Washington in the shipyard, some other crews may have to go through these challenges that they have faced now for not only months, but years.
Oren Lieberman at the Pentagon for us. Thanks so much. We're joined now by 20-year Navy veteran and Virginia Democratic Congresswoman Elaine Luria. She serves on the House Armed Services, Homeland Security, and Veterans Affairs committees. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, your reaction to what we've learned from Oren Lieberman's report, especially the descriptions of a sailor sleeping in his car and another describing willful neglect.
Well, Jake, as you know, I had the opportunity to go visit the George Washington earlier this week. I'll start out by saying that, any death of our service members, anyone in our Navy family, is a tragedy. And the fact that there was a string of 3 of these in such close proximity, it's one of those things where one has to stop and say there really needs to be a deep look at what is happening at this command, at other commands in similar circumstances within the shipyards. I started by writing a letter to the Chief of Naval Operations, asking tough questions. What investigation are you doing? When are we going to expect the results? Tell us about these things. We hear in our office phone calls from these sailors who are constituents of ours in the district to get answers to those questions. And one of the things I requested is I need to go to the ship. I need to walk around. I need to talk to sailors. I need to see the living conditions. I was the executive officer on a ship myself, and the XO does something every day called messing and berthing inspections. Walking through the berthing compartments, the mess decks where people eat, and inspecting those things, talking to sailors. And so I wanted to have a little bit of time on the ship and have a walk through like that and hear from the crew.
And what did they tell you?
Well, the shipyard environment is incredibly tough. And I talked to a lot of junior sailors. This is their first command, the first place they've been in the Navy since they've been out of boot camp, the only thing they know about the Navy. And they're trained for specific skills when they go through boot camp, when they sign the line to enlist and come in. And it's understandable that they have to spend some time in a shipyard. The ship requires repair and overhaul, but should we be sending these most junior sailors right to the shipyard environment? And these are lengthy overhauls. It's a refueling of the carrier at the 25-year point to get another 25 years of service out of it. But Newport News Shipbuilding, it's an isolated place for sailors who don't have cars. The only place they have to live is on the ship. They're very isolated, and then put COVID on top of that. And then the challenging environmental conditions of an industrial environment to live in. So I talked to the sailors and I talked to leadership, and one of the things I took away is because this availability, this maintenance period just got extended another 19 months. A decision had been made several months back to start moving the crew back on board, but the leadership clearly said, had we known that it was going to have this extension of another 19 months, really in hindsight, I don't think we would have made that decision at the time. So. I think that these are stressful situations, and I think that many things can add up. There's sort of these friction points for sailors: long working hours, working shift work, having to work in a shipyard, being away from home for the first time, an industrial environment, and even the situation of the shipyard. Some sailors who do live off the ship have to commute, park. It takes them almost 2 hours just to get to and from work in each direction. And so there's things we need to look at. I went there both as a former officer who served on 6 different ships, deployed 3 times on carriers, knowing what the expectation was and what I would see or what I should see. And these questions of why, when there's always a carrier? We have 8 more carriers to refuel. It's another 40 to 50 years we're going to have a ship at that pier at Newport News Shipbuilding being refueled. We should be making investments and making sure that sailors have a quality of life that can be healthy for them and make them more productive sailors and have a more positive experience during their time in their Navy. So now, as a member of Congress, as the Vice Chair of the Armed Services Committee, I want to ask the questions what investments do we need to be making to make that infrastructure better?
So last week you wrote a letter to the Chief of Naval Operations demanding immediate action to ensure the safety of this crew. Have you gotten a response?
I am waiting for a written response, but I have certainly gotten a response from the CNO staff. Several of them accompanied me, along with the 4-star commander of Fleet Forces Command, to visit the ship. But then I broke off separately, had that opportunity that I asked for to speak to sailors. So I know that a more thorough response with the investigation that Oren mentioned will be forthcoming.
You're also in the Veterans Affairs Committee. There's this never-ending series of complaints about services needing to improve for veterans.
That is true. This is definitely a challenge and one that I take very seriously in my role on both of those committees. And we truly do have to provide the services, the health care that these veterans and active duty service members deserve. They literally sign the line. They risk their lives in the defense of our country, and it is our responsibility to take care of them. And I'm going to continue to ask these tough questions and work with my colleagues to make this situation for the crew of the George Washington and every ship that comes behind them better, as well as take care of our veterans.
Navy veteran, Democratic Congresswoman Elaine Luria of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, thank you so much. Appreciate it.